So we think it's important to consistently prepare for the next year. Many of us wait until the end of December and start planning. And if you've listened to what we've been doing the last couple of weeks, it's really been around how do we put systems in place that will allow us to keep moving and excelling and going to the next place. And that for us is important. Why is that important? It's important because when you know where you're going, then you're able to get there faster, you're able to get there better. So it has been a pleasure to be the guide in these sessions. Now, today, what we want to do is we want to effectively now begin to just wind down and get to the planning phase. So we've talked about innovation, we've talked about technology, we've talked about how we keep moving, we've talked about outside the box thinking, but now we want to do a quick look at how do we keep these things going. Remember, our role is to ensure that in life we rethink, we redesign, and we rise all the time. I believe it's Charles Hardy who, I forget the book that he wrote, but he had a theory that every 18 to 24 months, you need to tweak something in your system. So if you're running a product business, something needs to tweak, either maybe how you deliver, how you connect with people, um, and all those things. And what that helps you do is it helps you ensure that you're consistently moving. So that's really been the focus of this month. And when we say last week we're doing leveraging technology, we're looking at simple tools that we can use to begin to accelerate ourselves to where we need to be. So we'll close the conversation around continuous learning. And as always, this is the African MSME Collective, where we support MSMEs to grow smart, lead boldly, and scale sustainably. Our focus is across Africa, but we are looking at African businesses across the globe. In the community, we have representation from South Africa, Botswana, Uganda, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, and then we have Norway, we have the UK, and we have Canada. And in these spaces, what we're working to is helping business leaders in those spaces thrive from setup to sustainability and ensure that they're adequately connected. My name is Chesubire, and I really run the side of storytelling, leadership, and growth. And we're in partnership with Joe Mukoko, who runs the business development and sales and all the structuring conversations. Of course, together we are part of a collective. So in the collective, there is a lot of capacity for many more things like monitoring and evaluation and a few other things like that. So, what are we discussing today? Continuous learning and development, a way of growing to stay relevant. Now, I said it maybe 2 weeks ago that we must continually ensure that we are growing. And when we do not focus on growth as a strategy, we begin to stagnate and we begin to decline to the end. So whether you stop growing at 25 and you live until you're 75, you'll have spent 50 years in decline. And that's a thing most of us don't think about. So when we say we're not going forward, things are not working, the place of continuous learning asks what is not working and why. And then you continue in that capacity to shift down those patterns. So let's jump into it quickly. What is one new thing you've learned this quarter that has helped you, whether in life, whether in business, whether in your relationships? What is one thing you've learned this quarter that has helped you? I'm looking for some responses. One thing you've learned this quarter that has really helped you. I'm looking for at least 2 responses. What is one thing you have learned this quarter that has helped you? One thing that you have learned. Ask Felicity. Felicity, what is one thing you've learned this quarter that has really helped you? Today we're few enough for me to call people by name, so. Are you able to unmute and respond?
Yes. Good evening, Chesubire.
Good evening, Felicity.
I wasn't anticipating you to put me on spot like that, but it's so fine. For me, the one thing is consistency, and especially now that I can start seeing the results of being consistent in my work. So my word for the quarter has been consistency, consistency, consistency. It pays.
Excellent. Consistency pace. I love that word. That I've been saying a lot last couple of months. Consistency over intensity. So we're
Yes.
there. Thank you so much, Felicity. I see in the comment section, start my day in silence, ventured into AI. Excellent. So why is this important? This is part of our choice to continuously learn. So by the end of this session, we will have understood what it means, what continuous learning means, and differentiate between being sharp and being significant, and then really share some practical things we can do and we'll be done. I don't think we'll be here for too long. So why does it matter? Why does consistent learning matter? It is the foundation of longevity. Longevity of your business, longevity of your own life, of your relationships, of your purposes. It is the foundation. Do you know that innovation is a lifestyle? It's not a one-off, it's not a moment, it's not a wish. It is a deliberate thing that we plug into life. It is a lifestyle. So if you wake up and you work out every morning, then you have the capacity to work with innovation. If you can keep consistent on a matter, so you can't stay innovative if you stop learning, because when you hit a speed bump, if you haven't had a wide or deep pool of information you can draw from, then you are much slower. Again, if you want to grow your business, you must grow the leader of the business. The leader of the business is you. So if you are not growing as an individual, then there is going to be a challenge further down the line. And many of us don't always see that. So in business and leadership, learning keeps you sharp enough to compete and significant enough to influence. Remember, people buy from those they know, like, and trust, okay? If you are not in the space where you're consistently learning who your audience is, putting yourself out, understanding the trends, then you are kind of on the back foot. Because number one, learning keeps you sharp. You see, the skill is learned and mastered, which means you execute better, you solve faster, and you make fewer mistakes. So there is importance for that. I'll use T-Banks, who talked about learning to ventured into AI. The reason you use AI is to become more effective and efficient. It's not for it to replace your brain, because you have the stats and you know how to adapt them, but maybe you don't know where to find them. So you will use AI. Maybe you do not know where to how to put the thoughts together. You can get an enhancement, but you do have the base idea, or you can see a base idea presented to you and expand it. So learning keeps you sharp, all right? It helps you execute better, solve faster, and have fewer mistakes. Also, learning makes you significant. And in this in this conversation, significance is about impact, all right? So your customers know you, they trust your knowledge, your teams trust you enough to follow you because you are clear. And as you grow, the industry respects your growth. You see, sharpness is useful, but significance is the place of influence. It is where you connect with people, and then people understand that if we hang out with Dorothy, then we're going far. If we spend time with Paris, we are connecting with a new idea, a new process. We're connecting with growth. And when you're like us, who are in the mentorship and coaching space, we are consistently forced to learn because we are consistently helping people adjust, smoothen, refine, shift, whatever it is they're doing so that their businesses can be viable. So imagine yourself as a coach, never reading, never doing a course, never entering a webinar of something you don't know, never asking questions. A point will come where, to your particular audience, you are no longer relevant. And those are critical things. And then the third reason why continuous learning matters is because it makes you adaptable. You learn enough to understand that their market shifts, that technology will evolve, that your customers will change. And if you stay in that place of consistent learning, then you're able to get unstuck. Because even in the current economy, there are people who say, oh, the economy is so bad, we're not making anything. But there are also people who, in this economy, as difficult as it is, there are people who are making money. And it is the capacity to learn, the capacity to shift, the capacity to build networks and communities. All right. So Ecclesiastes 7:12 talks about how wisdom preserves those who have it. Wisdom is not a gift. You pursue it, you seek it the same way you seek understanding. And as you're seeking wisdom, you are seeking wisdom because you are adding information and then translating it into knowledge and applying it, because wisdom is the application of knowledge. Wisdom is the application of knowledge. So it matters because it keeps it adaptable, it keeps us in check, it keeps us deeply, deeply focused. But let's take a quick moment to talk about how being sharp and significant, all right? Many entrepreneurs are sharp, like an arrow, like a razor. They are on point, but not all of them become significant. All right. And let's look at the comparison. So when you are sharp, you know things, you are efficient, you work hard, you gain attention, you are impressive, you are so visible that people are tracking you. All right. When you're significant, you solve problems, you are transformative, people meet you and they change. You create such deep value that people want to come back and indeed do come back to where you are. Not only do you gain trust, you are influential, which means everything you deploy is useful and memorable because you have processed it out. So, whereas most of us focus on being sharp, we must ensure that we can turn that into wisdom that will help us adjust things around us. I remember sitting with a coachee one day and she just said, I need money, I need money. When we sat down and we dug into her business, no. If we gave her money at that point, her business would implode. What she needed at that point in time was a well-defined product, a well-defined market, and a system to run her sales. All right? When we were done with the coaching process, not only was she sharp, but she had moved to significance, at least the first layer of it, because now she was a real problem solver. When she listened to her clients, she heard what they said. I'll give an example. There was one of my coaches many years ago. They were in the business of doing milking jelly, and they had a beautiful brown design. It was all cool. It was really beautiful to look at. Then they went to the market, and the market said to them, if you don't look like Aramis, we're not buying. And they now had to come and redesign their product to be similar. It's easy to say, I know this will sell, but it is harder to say, I need to adjust it to meet what the market is asking for. And this is where we must have both sharpness and significance. Because when we are sharp, we know we're on top of it. We have the information, we translate it into something useful. But if you can take that knowledge and information and apply it, that is where you enter the place of wisdom. So you solve the problems. And you now are aware that problems are incremental, they happen all the time. You are able to come back and ensure that the solution you put on the table is transformative, it's valuable, it's influential, and at the end of the day, you end up memorable. So the key things to remember is don't learn to impress people. The thing about continuous learning, if you learn to impress, you're left without much. What you must focus on doing is learn so that you can improve your service. So that when you meet with your people in the market, on the street, not only do you recognize them, you have the right solution and you are preemptively looking for where they are going. But you see, the other side of it is that growth is for effectiveness, not ego. If we grow for the sake of our ego, we get to a place where our egos are so big, we don't listen to anybody. But if we are growing for effectiveness, then we're using our sharpness to increase performance and create impact, so that moves us to the place of significance. And significance is really what most of us are chasing. I give practical ways to learn these things. Remember, learning is a culture, not a course. Learning is a culture, not a course. Just because you come in every Tuesday doesn't mean you're learning unless you are applying what you learn every Tuesday. All right? So, there are 3 or 4 critical ways that we learn. One, we learn through information, which is mental learning. We're tracking trends, we're tracking customer behavior, emerging market needs, so that we can stay ahead. Okay? So we're learning mentally, we're gathering information. We are studying our competitors or industry shifts, economic shifts, to understand preemptively and realistically what to improve and what to innovate or what to actually put down. You could have a product that the market no longer needs, and instead of trying to make sure the market takes it, why not adjust your product? That's mental learning. So how do you ensure you maintain what you learn? You keep a small journal, a learning journal, separate from your reflection journal. In there, you record insights that can change how you work, how you serve, how you sell, how you think, how you listen. You track the insights you're learning. I remember when I was working in a dental practice many years ago, my boss's brother was an architect, and they ran projects. And one of his partners was a young Asian guy. And this my boss's brother had been in the practice for more than 5 years, but there were things he didn't know that this young Asian guy knew. So he asked him, "How did you get there without going to school of architecture and construction?" And the young man said to him, in his community, you're attached to somebody who is doing what you want to do, and you're instructed to work with them for 3 years. And in the 3 years, you learn 3 new things every day. Just 3. So he may not know why you put on the steps, why you put Y1 at the bottom and Y8 at the top, but he knows this is the order of how you put the wires. On the corner, you put these wires. So he has the knowledge of how to do things. He may not always have the understanding, but what this young man did every day at certain points in the day, he'd walk back to the office, he had a little notebook, and he wrote, like, today's date. You write the date and the one thing you've learned. Then you go back, you learn, you come and write another thing you've learned. So by the time you've done 365 days, or let's say maybe 340 days because of weekends, what would happen is you have learned more than 900 new things. So imagine you do that for 3 years, you have mastered a course. Okay. So when you keep that small learning journal, what it does for you, it gives you a reference you can go back to. And then maybe in this day and age, when you've done that, or you can go by and summarize it. Okay. But maybe one of the other ways to learn, to expedite learning, is to get the support of AI. I love using Grok because Grok allows me to take articles, assess them, and make comparisons and see who says what and how they say it differently. Or you could use it to develop ideas, analyze data, research faster, confirm what you're finding, look for articles to read. The reality is, when we learn through information, we must absorb a good chunk of it and then interpret it. Sorry, analyze it, interpret it, and apply it. So that's the first way we learn, learning through information, which is mental learning. The next way we learn is through people. So this is what I like to call community-driven learning. Mentors sharpen your strategy and shorten your learning curve. When you have a mentor and they ask you a difficult question at a time where you may not be asking that particular question, that is a blessing because you can accelerate your learning. Or you have networks that introduce you to people, partnerships, collaborations that you could not access alone. All right. Accountability partners who challenge your excuses and help you remain consistent. And it is important in all these things to listen to diverse voices. Listen to the younger entrepreneurs, listen to the seasoned ones, go into difficult industries and study them. Look at different markets, look at different cultures. Learning happens when we step one, outside our comfort zone, two, deeply into segments and sectors we do not understand. For instance, every so often, I step into a webinar where I know nothing about that particular topic. Why? When you expose your mind to new things, and remember, our mind is a muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it becomes. When you step into spaces that are segments you don't understand, you broaden your thinking. I remember sitting in a room one day and saying, why am I here? So we had gone for, I'm an AFCFTA champion, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And I went into a meeting and they were discussing the dispute resolution mechanism. I was the only small business owner sitting with lawyers and trade experts. My goodness, for 5 days. By the end of the 5 days, I knew that our small businesses on the continent are not ready for cross-border trade, let alone cross-county trade. Like in your country, Kenya, we've got 47 counties. Many of us are not even ready to trade across county lines. But we are pushing the narrative of let's go international. And it brought me back into this space more deliberate to help us build stable businesses, because unless our businesses are stable and able to absorb weight, we cannot expand. That's an example of going into a different segment, listening to a different set of conversations, listening to negotiations, explanations that for the first day were above my head. By day 5, I was deeply immersed and I was understanding it. So that's learning through people. The third way to learn is learn by taking action. When you learn, you must practice. So that's practical learning. I hear AFCFTA works like this, I go and look for somebody who's trading. I hear this policy is done, I look for somebody who can implement it. So you treat each product, pitch, launch, service, connection as an experiment or an experience to learn from. So we're sitting here, and every time I come online, I'm looking to hear what people would like to know, hear where people want to go, and really move into the next level. All right. Which means that we must review outcomes weekly. So let's say we're selling and we have one shop, and at the end of the week we need to look at what is our highest moving product, how much are we moving, what are our daily incomes, can we adjust, how do we make more, how do we fill gaps, because we will find gaps when we're doing that. Because you're looking at what didn't work, what worked, and for what didn't work, what are the small improvements we can make, and then be willing to fail forward. Sometimes the mistake you make is the data you need for the next place. For instance, let's say I used to walk on a certain road and I've not been there for a while, and I go back and I trip in a place that used to be level. That should be data for me to know I shouldn't walk this side of the road at night. All right. So when something doesn't work, that is data which shows you what skill or wisdom is needed in that situation. But if you hadn't taken that action, you may not have discovered that thing. And then when you make a discovery, be sure to apply it immediately, because knowledge that is not used becomes noise. It's just information. Remember, we said knowledge is the application of wisdom is the application of knowledge. So if you don't have knowledge to put into practice, then you have curtailed your journey to wisdom. All right. So which means knowledge is just information bouncing around your head and not helping you. So we learn from information, we learn from people, we learn from action, And finally, I believe that is finally, we learn from correction. Many of us do not like the feedback data loop. Okay? We do look at feedback as a positive thing. I tell my mentees and I tell the young people I work with, understand failure is a classroom. It is school fees you're paying for your success. So feedback is direction, not an attack. It reveals where the gaps are, what needs to be refined so that you can do it better the next time. So when a customer complains, use that complaint as a place for product improvement, not offense. And if you have multiple complaints about one thing, then you know that is a major issue you have. For instance, one of the people I work with had a major delivery challenge. Orders were getting mixed up, orders were getting forgotten, the delivery crew were not being very nice. So when I complained, I thought I was the only one. I said, "Oh no, just don't throw them out." She's like, "You're not the only one." And what these guys used that data for, the customer complaints for, was to realize that their last mile delivery had a problem and find a replacement for that last mile delivery. And the other thing you could do is use information gathering tools to find out what people really need. So we're talking about surveys, we're talking about polls, we're talking about calls to your customers to find out where they are. We're talking about using the tools in our hands, one, to collect data, but secondly, to analyze the data, get a summary, figure out the sentiment, what is recurring, what are the common areas of dissatisfaction or satisfaction, and use that to guide decisions. What you must understand, we make our decisions based on feedback and data, not on feelings. If you have a feeling something needs to change, go back and find the data to support that feeling. Okay? Very often in the spirit led world where we are relying heavily on the Holy Spirit, you'll have a sense that something needs to be done. And as you begin to move it, you will find the data you need to support that sense shows up. Okay? So now, when we begin to do these things, we've learned mental learning, which is learning from information. We have learned from people. We have taken action and we have taken correction. How do we then consistently put this into practice? There are a few habits that will work for us. And really, it's just 7 little things. Stay curious. Always ask questions and build in the pattern of asking better questions. Better questions are, you see, you can keep asking the same questions and getting the same result. So then, how do you switch your question depending on your audience to get more out of them? How do you get them to share their heart? How do you get them to tell you the truth of their experience with your product? And when you're asking these questions, take notes. Take notes from what is going around you. Many of us take mental notes from books, from messages, from webinars, but are you listening and taking notes of the experiences around you that your customers are having, that you are having with your suppliers? Take notes. And let me tell you why taking notes is important. Many times we think we will remember and then we forget. And 2 years later, we're like, I had something like that a while back. Who said it? Why didn't we implement it? Because you did not take a note and you did not deliberately choose to apply it. Okay? We've already done this one, so seek feedback. As praise and recognition is important, please seek feedback. Feedback tells us where we are, what is working, what is not working. And I like to put this one in. I throw this one in because it's important for me. Seek seek wisdom. And one of the greatest sources I find of wisdom is scripture. So study it for wisdom, not for just memory or for checking the box and saying, I did my meditation this morning. Study scripture in such a way that it transforms your life patterns, it transforms your thought processes, it transforms how you deal with people. And when you have acquired this new information, new skills, Invest in the skills that will expand your business model. One of the things we have deliberately had to invest in is learning empathy, because our business model is very people driven, and people like to know that they have been not only heard, but they're important. So we've had to invest in learning empathy. But we've also had to invest in product design. We've had to invest in people skills, how to train, how to coach, how to teach, how to, you know, ensure that your message is passed on clearly. And then the other thing that you could do is turn AI into an assistant. It's not your core, it's not the one who does all the work, but it helps you. So if you need transcription, find a software that can do that. If you need editing, is there a free software you can use that is AI enabled, or can you go to generative AI and it will design what you want it to do? Is there an AI tool that can do your graphics, your presentations, your tables, your data analysis, where you plug in stuff and it gives you out potential hypotheses? And then the other thing we must do, and I say it every week in this space, start with one thing. Of all the things you've listed to do, what is the one, eh? The one that will make the biggest difference? And you start with that. Because usually, when you start with the one that will make the biggest difference, what happens is that every other small skill applied to it gets drawn in, and it will be changed in the process. Every other process aligned to it will be shaken and shifted as you solve this one big one. So the skills we need to not only hone, but to run with. We stay curious. We make notes of our experiences and things we must change. We seek feedback before praise. We spend time in study and meditation of scripture to expand our perspectives. We invest in the skills that will help us grow our business models. Find a way to make AI our assistant, not the shortcut, and then apply one thing every week. You see, if you come in here every Tuesday, you've got this long list of notes you have learned, you have never applied. Do you realize if you've been with us since last year, September, you have 60 webinars you can draw information from? 60. Now, surely, if you just applied one lesson from 12 of those sessions, you would be significantly ahead. So that's what we're challenging us to do. So here's reflection. What skill gaps are slowing you down? And I'd like us to take a moment and actually give a moment for our reflections. What skill gaps are slowing you down? Who or what can sharpen you? So, what is the next step you must take? And why is this important? It is not enough to just learn. It has to be that as we learn, we are applying, we are continually finding things to learn, and we know what our next step should be. For instance, some of us know that in December, we must rest. And rest would mean shutting down from the whole world, going on socials, sleeping more, going out for walks. It means different things to different people. All right. But what is the skill gap that is slowing you down right now? Take a note. Let's see what it is. What is the skill gap that is slowing you down right now? And how can you shift it? Who will sharpen you? Where should you go? What do you need to study? And then the next question is, when do you start? Does anybody have a question at this point? Does anybody have a question? Anyone with a question? I'm open to questions. Any clarifications you need, something that has stood out for you in this portion? All right. So, in conclusion, a couple of things we must remember. Number one, A growing leader builds a growing business. So if your business is stagnating, if you're not growing as fast as you want to, if you feel stuck, check whether or not you're growing. Okay? A growing leader is a growing business. And then we said, let's not learn to impress, rather to serve and solve real problems. When we're in the place of learning to impress, we are not able to effectively apply it, which then means we must make learning a culture, not a course. So if I'm not in a course right now, I should be reading a book that has information that I previously don't have, following a podcast, reading a white paper. And my dear Africans, there's this thing people say that if you don't want an African to learn something, put it in a book. Many of us say, oh, our attention spans are short. It is not a superpower to have the attention span of a mosquito. And I say a mosquito because a mosquito will come buzzing. I will try and swat it. It will come straight back. Straight back. All right. So some people call that resilience, but you see, sometimes it's just that it forgot that this body it wants to draw blood from is the same one that wants to hit it. All right. So when you make learning a culture, then the application of what matters, the application of what you have found, the application of the challenging things matters more than what you know. Because it doesn't help to have a lot of information in your head, never deploy it, and wonder why you're stuck. We are stuck because we do not apply what we know. So knowledge without action is information. Applied knowledge, applied learning generates wisdom, which creates growth. So if we remember nothing else, remember that knowledge without action is information. In fact, it is noise. It is just noise. Tuko tu hapa, we're just here. Pepe, 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 noise. We must apply learning for growth. So to be a leader committed to fundamental change, you must be committed to fundamental learning. Now, here's another way you can learn. You figure out who in your network knows what you need to know. I remember talking to a business leader who said she swore to herself she will never get stuck again because somebody in her network knows what she doesn't know. So she doesn't need to know everything. Isn't that what Henry Ford also did? He surrounded himself with people who knew more than him, so that if you asked him a question that he couldn't answer, he knew which extension to call. Ask that question, the person will give him the answer. What did that free him to do? It freed him to be strategic. So learning equips you to lead well. It also equips you to serve well. And above all, it equips you to fulfill the calling God has trusted you with. So even if you're in the marketplace, to be serving your calling with God to the fullest of who you are does not mean you're leading in church. It also means that every place you step, the truth and the proof of your relationship and walk with Him is evident. People know you by your actions. But where does it start? It starts from learning. You learn to be authentic. You learn to be committed. You learn to choose to expand your worldview. You learn to apply. And in that place of consistency, then you gain the strength you need to go forward. You're able to be effective and efficient as you serve people. And above all, you become the fullness of who you are designed to be. If there is anything better than that, it would be that you have attained, well done, good and faithful servant. Because you are called and you are sent on an assignment to transform the worlds of people. You are not here just to fill your belly. You're not just here to take your children to good schools. You're not here just to be personally happy. You're here to be the hands and feet of the Creator who put you on this earth for a reason. That's why if you've listened through, Our learning process includes study of the word because there's a lot of wisdom in the word. Do we have any questions? Because what we're working to do is to be smart and significant. Do we have any questions? If there are no questions, I will hand it back to my very able partner, Mr. Mukoko.
Thank you very much, Coach Chesobere, for that powerful reminder, powerful conversation, nuggets of wisdom. It has been a powerful year, and happy to always see you looking bright, shiny, and upbeat. May the Lord increase you. May the Lord increase your territories. May the Lord reward you in excess of the sacrifices that you make. Very powerful conversation. And for just reminding us, it doesn't hurt to ask for help, to leverage on tech. What you apply matters more than what you know.
Yes.
So if I take this information and sit with it and I do not apply it, I will not have done justice to this class. So thank you, all of you, for being here. Thank you, Coach Subire. Let's give her flowers while she's still here. I know we are having tea on the 6th. I'll bring you
Yes.
flowers. Do you like flowers? I'll bring you
Yes, I
flowers.
will tell you what, I don't just like any flowers. I'll tell you my favorites.
Okay. I didn't see that coming, but now that I already made a commitment, there we go. All right, the
Good.
flowers shall come.
All
So
right.
send my peer will reach out to you for you to let us know what it is you want, and then we shall organize for you the flowers on our behalf, all of us. That those flowers will be from all of us from the circle to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we enjoy feedback. Thank you for being here. So we would love you to give us feedback in terms of what went well, what can we improve on, and what would you like to see even as we get ready for 2026? And we land the plane, not the plate. Remember, we've been told to apply what we have learned. And we are learning leaders, so we are continuously moving forward. So please fill in the feedback form and let us know. Then for those who've not yet joined the circle, you can join the circle. You can also share this link with your friends. Let them join the circle so that we can keep on working together. Now, Chesubire has put the T. So let's discuss the T. Good. So on December 6th, Saturday, December 6th, 9 to 12 for 12 noon, we shall be having tea for the community at Koseres. It's in Westlands, Nairobi. Tutatuma, we will send the location on the group. And if you'd like to reach out, also reach out. Come, let's sit, let's talk, let's fellowship, let's take tea together, let's laugh even as we close the year. It's by your own breakfast. The breakfast is reasonably priced. The ambience is lovely, ladies and gentlemen. Lovely. You will enjoy it, even as we talk and we bring the year to a close. So thank you, Coach Chesodure. We are also running a digital, this is the WIDB course, right? Yes, we are running the WIDB course, Women in Digital Business. But it doesn't mean you just have to be, I don't know why they call it WIDB and then they've opened it to anyone. But if you would like to digitize your business, we shall be running a course from January 28, 2026. Every Wednesday for 12 weeks from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., even as we strengthen your muscles. You know, these things Coach Subir is telling us. Leverage AI, do this. You should listen to her talk. She uses 10 AI tools in one day. Now, that's the opportunity we are telling you. Tap into it, grow.
Yeah.
The grace is here. And guess what? You'll have classmates from Uganda. We are running it in Kenya and Uganda. How better can this be? Ladies and gentlemen, we are going cross border. So Ugandan shillings, 300,000. Kenya shillings, 10,000. US dollars, 85. We'll share this so you can also get to share it with your teams as we move on. The other course is the Biashara Basics. In the circle, we have got those who are in business and those who are not in business. So those who are in business, this is a very good thing for you to tap into. And even for those of us in business who want to learn more, please tap into Biashara Basics. It's part of the enabled course by African MSME Collective. Tap into it. We have done leadership now. Now you lead like a founder. Business foundation. Who is your market? Who are you selling to? Then a human-centered design aspect of designing for your clients. So you don't have good products and services and then say no one bought. No. We design based on what does the customer want to do with your product or service. Then of course finances, selling, and then building legacy for you and your loved ones. So looking forward to you registering for Biashara Basics. We shall put it out in the group. Register for a friend, and even let's keep on running. Next slide, please, Chesubire. Good. How does 2026 look for you? Ladies and gentlemen, December, we only have 2 shows. On December 2nd and December 9th. December 2nd, we shall be reflecting, and not reflecting for the purposes of just reflecting. We are reflecting to look ahead and run ahead with purpose. Then, December 9th, we shall have a plan or a plan. Plan or a plan. Please make sure you attend those sessions. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We shall also send the registration link in the circle. You can get to share with the rest of us. Yes, Chesubire? The flowers are being manufactured. Don't worry. They will come. It's been a wonderful year working with all of you attending. And we would like to thank our partners and sponsors for just holding our hands and giving us an opportunity to keep the lights on so that we could dispense and network together. So to AFI Solutions, Chana Publishers, Regroup, Shala Global, the Cube Innovation Hub, Akiko Stories, Haki Integrated Services, SOA Events Institute, Aura Essentials, Thai Events, Conscious Works Consult, Zurich Consulting, and Business Support Africa, we say a big thank you. Thank you for working with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you from the bottom of our heart. We did 1 year birthday, so we've done 1 year plus 2 months. Now you see, slowly we will get to year 2. Thank you so much for being here. May you be rewarded in excess of the sacrifices that you make. Coach Chesubire, you dropped nuggets of wisdom. I'm still looking at them. Wait, I go back to this other one, Kwanzaa. Sorry, guys, if you see me excited, it's because I'm excited.
Yeah.
Apply one thing you learn each week
Mm.
and take the knowledge and make it applicable
Mm.
to your situation.
Yes.
So you have a blank canvas, but I'm not telling you to start the presentation again. You have a blank canvas. Parting shot. Don't start the presentation again. It's a blank canvas.
So, my parting shot is let's live our lives deliberately and intentionally. I'll give an example. Last night, out of the blue, our neighbors, there's a house in our neighborhood that burnt. And when people were calling for help, it wasn't clear what was going on until too late, because by the time people came out, That house had been ablaze for, by the time now the masses came and we started, working to resolve things, it was already 45 minutes. I apply that to our daily lives because if we go into life and we are not intentional, we are haphazard, something will hit us on the nose and we won't know what to do about it. Or we will come against a brick wall and we will feel stuck and we will blame life. So when you choose to grow, when you choose to build, do it intentionally. In Sunday school, used to be taught the verse, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as though you're working for the Lord and not for man. So be clear about why you're around, be clear on your assignment, and then follow it intentionally, even when you cannot see results. And I'll use us as the last example. When we started AMC almost 2.5 years ago, we didn't have leads. And then almost a year in is when we decided, when we had the nudge and the instruction to do the Tuesdays. We have now done almost 60. It doesn't mean we feel like it every day, but what we have found is that this is a place of growth. So we are super intentional about Tuesday, whether there are 2 people on the call, whether there are 25, 30 on the call. Sometimes the call starts with nobody. So the intentionality and the clarity of where we are going is what gives us the capacity to consistently move. So you start with intention, you move with intention, you finish with intention. You will find you will meet your assignment and you will accomplish it wherever you must get to. That's my parting shot.
Be intentional, be deliberate. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you for that parting shot. Intentionality.
Terrible.
Have a good evening. Have a good morning. Have a good afternoon. And may you be rewarded in excess of the sacrifices that you make in the communities that you serve as you continue impacting those communities with that which the Lord has entrusted you with. Thank you. See you next week on Tuesday.
See you,
Good
everybody.
night.
Good night.